next story belongs to Chris Himes. Hello. Hi. How are you? It's good to see you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. All right. So, my ex-husband had made and broken many promises in our 32-year marriage, but when he promised that he would burn everything I'd left in the house, I thought maybe I should take this seriously. Um, I've heard of people who have had amicable divorces. In fact, we heard of a story tonight of someone who had such a thing. I did not have one of those. I had what I think is the more common, mean, nasty, kind of divorce. Um, I've also heard of women who said, oh, yeah, I kicked him out. Or actually, they usually say, yeah, I kicked the bastard out. Um, I was not one of those women. I found it's actually incredibly difficult to have someone leave your house if they don't want to leave. And so in the end, I was the one who left. So I took some clothes and some things, and I moved into a small basement apartment. And when it was on a trip back to the house that I was still paying for, which I say with only a hint of bitterness, that I found that my husband had adopted this new ritual of taking things out into the backyard and burning them. And he was burning mainly things that he thought were not, well, things that, not the things that he didn't think were important, things that he thought were important to me were the things that he was burning. And that's when he said, if there's anything in this house you want, you should take it now. So I rented a storage unit, and I started packing up all of the things that I thought I might want to have. And we'd lived here in that house for 20 years. It's where my kids had grown up. So, I had the family photographs. I had, the Mother's Day cards they had made, their baby clothes, quilts that their grandmothers had made for them when they were born, all these things that I thought I might want to have, and I put everything in the storage unit. And I felt much safer then. I thought, okay, I've taken care of this. I've, going to preserve these things. So, it was a tough year going through divorce for those who've gone through this. It's even if it's amicable, I don't think it's a very much fun time. And but I had a lot of family and friends who supported me. And that year when I went home at Christmas, my sister had made me this quilt, and it was a log cabin pattern. And in the center of each block, she'd put a red square. And she said, that's just to remind you, Chris, that home is always where the heart is. And so I took that quilt back to my little dark basement apartment and put it on my bed. And it was nice to think, every time I would go in there, I'd say, there are people who care about me and people who love me. And it was this nice reminder. So a year went by, the divorce was final. My husband then moved out of the house since he was no longer living there for free, which I also say with only a hint of bitterness. And I moved back in to try to sell the house, which he, just kind of left and said, oh, now you can move, now it's yours. So, again, we had lived there for 20 years. And even though I'd had all this stuff in the storage unit, there was still a lot of stuff in this house that I had to sort through, what to keep, what, we didn't need anymore. By that time, I knew we lived in upstate New York, and I was moving to a new job in Chicago, and I was downsizing from a 5-bedroom, 3-acre country house to a 2-bedroom city condo. So I knew there were some things I didn't need, like a snowblower. In Syracuse, New York, a snowblower is an essential household item, but I figured in Chicago I wouldn't need that. But, there were other things, I mean, maybe I should have kept it. There are days I wish I had kept it, but I didn't. So I sold things on Craigslist. I gave things away. I took things to the Salvation Army. I didn't need linens for 5 beds. I didn't need dishes for 10 people. I didn't need all of this stuff, and I really honed down, my belongings to a manageable amount. I rented one of those storage pods, put everything I owned in it. I was going to get shipped off to Chicago. It was going to be a few months till I got there, so I was kind of couch surfing for a while. And so when I finally, after 2 years of all of this kind of sorting and moving and packing and stuff, and I finally had moved to Chicago, I was in my house. The movers had brought all the boxes in and had left, and I thought, it was such a great feeling to feel like I was finally home. I was finally in a place that was mine, that I was, could really settle in. So the first thing I did is I went to the cedar chest where I had packed the linens, and I was going to take out my sister's quilt and put this on my bed. And it wasn't there. And I started frantically looking through all of the boxes and packages and suitcase. My sister's quilt wasn't there. The baby quilts weren't there. A quilt that students had given me many years ago wasn't. All of those things were gone. I couldn't find them anywhere. And the only thing I can think of is that somehow in all of this sorting and moving things around, they'd gotten mixed in with things that had been donated to the Salvation Army. And I know there are some people who would say, oh, What's really important is that, those are just material things. But what's important is you have the love of your family and your friends and your kids, and that's what really matters. But I'm not one of those people. I am just really pissed. I am really, really angry still, 4 years later, that those things aren't there. And there are still nights that I wake up in the middle of the night and think, there's a box I don't think I looked in some closet. And I will get up and I'll look, and I think I will find them. But I'm not sure I'll ever really accept that they are just really gone forever. Thank you.